Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Wednesday, November 4th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. It has been a day of watching and waiting and worrying for some, but as the day has worn on, the presidential race picture getting clearer. All eyes are on a handful of states that are still counting votes. KPBS reporter John Carroll is live in our newsroom with the very latest. John?
Maya, the counting rolls on in a number of states, but of course we're focused on the ones that will make all the difference in how this election turns out. Let's take a look at the current Electoral College map. Now, like many media organizations, KPBS relies on the Associated Press to make calls. The states you see there in darker red and purple or blue have been called by the AP. The lighter shaded colors have not. So right now, Joe Biden is leading with 264 electoral votes. President Trump has 214, and it takes 270 to win. The turn in Joe Biden's favor really started happening around 3 this morning Pacific time. At that time, President Trump had a sizable lead in the all-important battleground state of Wisconsin. But then Milwaukee's votes came in, and they came in big for Biden. He took a small lead, and he's never looked back. The AP has since called Wisconsin for the former vice president, and this afternoon they also called Michigan for Biden. As morning stretched into afternoon, the picture steadily improved for the Biden-Harris ticket, but the Trump campaign says the numbers moving in the Democrats' favor can be chalked up to one thing. The president tweeted about it last night, saying, without any evidence, that the Democrats were trying to steal the election. This afternoon, Trump tweeted that he was claiming Pennsylvania, Georgia, North Carolina, and Michigan for electoral vote purposes. Late last night, he said this to his supporters.
This is a fraud on the American public. This is an embarrassment to our country. We were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this election.
Biden shot back, saying it wasn't his or Donald Trump's place to declare the winner. This afternoon, a confident Biden took the stage with his running mate.
Here, the people rule. Power can't be taken or asserted. It flows from the people. And it's their will that determines who will be the President of the United States, and their will alone.
We have not heard from President Trump since last night, but he has been tweeting, and his campaign has filed lawsuits in a number of battleground states, including Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Georgia. Election officials in Arizona and Georgia have indicated they may be releasing new vote totals later this evening. Nevada officials said late this afternoon they won't have any new numbers until tomorrow morning. But it's still quite possible we might not know the outcome of this election for a couple of days, maybe longer. In the meantime, you can always find the very latest on our website, kpbs.org. Maya?
Thanks so much, John. Now, we've seen scattered protests across the country since the election results started coming in, but not widespread unrest. Here in San Diego County, a demonstration is about to get underway any moment now, one of a couple of rallies held locally today. KPBS reporter Max Rivlin-Nadler is live downtown. Max, what's the scene out there?
Hi, Maya. With the Trump administration going to Philadelphia today, the Trump campaign going to Philadelphia today to try to stop the vote count, protests are springing up across the country. Right now in San Diego, right here at the Civic Center, one is just getting underway. This protest was planned in support of minority communities, and it was planned even before the election. Another protest took place in Poway this morning. People who wanted the vote to continue to count in crucial swing states, no matter which candidate would favor from those counts. Green Valley resident Tristan Higgins was one of them.
Really, the point here is we don't want a coup, right? We really don't want anybody declared a winner before the votes are counted. We don't want any vote to not matter. And so that's why none of these signs say Trump or Biden.
Here downtown, the crowd is continuing to fill in. We have around over 30 people. Moments ago, I spoke with 25-year-old Matique Gray, who says they decided to come out today to support communities they feel have been hurt by the Trump administration.
We need to come together now more than ever. Everything is so aggressive right now, just with politics, with social media. So I think this is a good time for us to just come together and show our strength more than anything.
Right now, there aren't any other protests planned in San Diego, but as challenges to the vote count continue from the Trump campaign and the votes continue to be counted, we'll find out just how much unrest there is. Back to you, Maya.
Pause. Thanks for that report, Max. State Assembly member Todd Gloria appears poised to win the San Diego mayor's race. Here are the latest numbers that we have. You can see he's holding a substantial lead over City Council member Barbara Bree with 56% of the vote in so far. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen has reaction from both candidates.
Hi, everybody.
Gloria's big early lead on election night narrowed slightly as the vote counting stretched into early Wednesday morning, but he's still ahead by double digits. Speaking to the media this afternoon, Gloria said he expects his lead to hold and that he hopes it's a mandate for his vision of San Diego embracing its status as a big city.
We shouldn't spend all of our time talking about things like scooters and vacation rentals, and instead that we really need to dive in and solve big issues like homelessness, infrastructure, and housing affordability. So that's what I hope it'll be, but we'll reserve a judgment on that until we get that final vote count.
Bree painted herself as the anti-establishment candidate and sought to build a coalition of Democrats, Republicans, and independents, but she appears to have fallen short. Speaking Tuesday night, she acknowledged she was behind, but did not concede.
We are behind, but there's still a lot of votes left to count. I remember that in the primary, we were behind on election night, and over the next few weeks, we made up the ground as more votes were counted.
Bree's deficit is much bigger this time around, however. She'll need an overwhelming majority of the remaining uncounted votes to pull off an upset win. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
And the congressional seat in East County is up for grabs. Democrat Amar Campa-Najjar is up against former North County Congressman Darrell Issa. Right now, Issa maintains nearly a 5-point edge, which would keep the seat in Republican hands. More now from KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman.
At this point, I consider that the race is over. It is statistically impossible for the outcome to be different.
Even with some votes still left to count, Issa is celebrating a return to Congress.
I don't expect to go back and immediately be a ranking member. Of course, I'd like to be a chairman 2 years from now, so that would also be a good goal.
Issa spoke outside his campaign headquarters in Vista today, saying despite a tough race, he won't move away from conservative values.
I will continue to be pro-Second Amendment, pro-First Amendment, pro-life, and candidly, pro the values of this district.
On election night, early returns showed Democrat Campa-Najjar with a lead.
And we've always felt like election after election, we were the forgotten people. That ends tonight.
But by early morning, that lead had shifted to Issa and has been growing steadily since then.
Do you think this race was close? No, it really wasn't.
Issa previously served in Congress for 18 years. He says he's looking forward to getting back to work with the San Diego County delegation to address the region's most pressing needs.
The continued problem at the Mexican border with sewage, our congestion that needs more highway funds, and a number of other issues that are more nuanced, like high-tech immigration reform and so on.
Campa-Najjar has not conceded this race. He did issue a statement today saying he's watching returns with hope and urges all votes to be counted. Meantime, Issa says he's planning to run again in the 50th.
I would expect that as soon as this race is as officially called by the Secretary of State, I'll file my papers for 2 years from now.
Issa says another one of his top priorities is getting the economy booming again, but he doesn't want to see more stimulus money that he says just keeps people at home. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
While the 50th race hasn't been called yet, we already have a new congresswoman in the 53rd district. This one was actually called by the Associated Press last night. Democrat Sarah Jacobs beat out fellow Democrat Georgette Gomez by 19 points. Jacobs talked to KPBS Midday Edition about the issues she would like to tackle in the House of Representatives.
There are a lot of areas like childcare, like support for small businesses, like infrastructure, like getting us out of this current economic and public health crisis that we can find bipartisan compromise on and make sure we're actually getting things done for families in our communities.
Jacobs is the granddaughter of Qualcomm co-founder Irwin Jacobs, who is a supporter of KPBS. Jacobs says she wants to still work with Gomez. The current San Diego City Council president conceded last night, saying she will never give up the fight for equality and justice. Democrats are holding on to their seats in 3 other local congressional races. Congressman Mike Levin won re-election in the 49th district. That's the seat that Darrell Issa held for many years until deciding not to run in 2018. Congressman Juan Vargas of the 51st district and Congressman Scott Peters of the 52nd were also re-elected. Democrat Tara Lawson-Remer appears poised to win the District 3 supervisor seat over incumbent Republican Kristen Gaspar. Here is the latest numbers right now. Lawson-Remer is up 19 points. KPBS reporter Shalina Chatlani says if her lead holds, the balance of power on the board will flip to Democrats.
Those supervisor seats are technically nonpartisan. Republicans have long held a majority on the board. And when Gaspar faced off against Lawson-Remer in the March primary, she came out slightly ahead. But the district was already shifting toward becoming blue. That may have impacted Gaspar's numbers this election. She's butted heads with the county and the governor on key issues like the coronavirus pandemic, wanting looser restrictions.
We need our local control back from the governor. California is a large, diverse state, and the thought that we can treat every county exactly the same way with this peanut butter approach is the wrong one.
Gaspar has also received attention for supporting President Donald Trump on issues like stricter immigration controls. Here's what she said in 2018 on SB 54, which limited local law enforcement's role with federal immigration enforcement.
And San Diego was really a model of excellence before. We were safer before SB 54.
But challenger Lawson-Remer says the district is rapidly shifting and voters care about issues like climate change and staying safe through the coronavirus pandemic. That's why she says she was able to gain a 20-point percentage lead on Gaspar as of Wednesday morning.
I'm so looking forward to bringing a new future to San Diego County, a future that values diversity, a future that values immigrant families, a future that values taking action on climate and protecting our beaches and coastlines and making sure we live in integrated communities and taking action on racial justice.
Lawson-Remer is an economist who served in the Obama administration. County Supervisor Nathan Fletcher came out in support of her in October. He and other members of the San Diego Democratic Party called out advertisements and text messages from the Gaspar campaign, claiming he had supported Gaspar's candidacy. Lawson-Remer says her support has grown out of a shifting district with new values.
I was going through the numbers, and we have about 3,500 people who have either donated or volunteered, and that is an incredible grassroots surge.
If Lawson-Remer holds on to her lead, it would give Democrats an advantage on the board after decades of Republican control. Shalina Chatlani, KPBS News.
And now to break down how the other county supervisor races are taking shape. In District 1, longtime Supervisor Greg Cox is termed out. The race now between Community College Board President Nora Vargas and State Senator Ben Hueso. Results showing Vargas with a substantial 10-point lead, 55 to 45%. And District 2, the largest in the county and covers most of East San Diego County. The district is about to see a big change with Diane Jacob termed out and leaving office after 28 years. Poway Mayor Steve Voss chasing the seat along with fellow Republican Joel Anderson, a former state senator. A check on the numbers shows Voss ahead by about 1,200 votes. That's less than 1 percentage point. For more election results, visit our website, kpbs.org, and you can find the latest updates on local, state, and national races as soon as they come in.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, more votes are counted and the electoral map moves closer toward a Biden victory as the Trump campaign files lawsuits. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
It is the news we really hoped we wouldn't get. San Diego County took its first step into the state's most restrictive purple tier. Today, 404 new COVID-19 cases and 3 additional deaths from the virus were reported in our region. KPBS health reporter Taryn Mento has more on what could happen if the numbers keep up their current trends.
The county's coronavirus case rate reached 7.4 per 100,000, but the county must surpass 7 again next week to fall backward in the state's reopening plan. California Secretary of Health, Dr. Mark Galley, says the state is working with local officials to reduce spread.
In order to better understand and mitigate any transmission increases that they're seeing.
But he warned any changes wouldn't come in time to affect next week's case rate.
Often these aren't themselves the things that will immediately stop a county from meeting that second week threshold.
A second week of a higher case rate would move San Diego to a more restrictive tier in the state's 4-color system. The county falls in red, which allows restaurants and other businesses to operate indoors at a limited capacity. A move to the more restrictive purple tier would limit some establishments to only outdoors. County officials have already asked the state to review this week's calculation, but Public Health Officer Dr. Wilma Wooten didn't cite a specific issue.
And we know that we have increased cases, and that is indeed the real reason why we are in purple. But we submitted that so that we can look at other factors that might be contributing and help reduce us from purple to red.
She says the region needs to keep its daily case count in the 200s or less, but it's been around 300 or higher this past week. Supervisor Nathan Fletcher says while they're hopeful the county stays in the red, the data is leaning toward purple.
We'll have to wait until next week to see what our numbers are next week, but it would take a significant change in trajectory given everything that we've been witnessing over the course of the last month in order for us to avoid that.
If we don't avoid the purple tier, restrictions could go into effect a week from Friday. Taryn Mento, KPBS News.
Voting has ended, but the job of the county registrar of voters continues. There are still thousands of uncounted ballots as additional mail and provisional ballots arrive. That would mean voter turnout percentages will go up as well. Another release of returns will happen tomorrow, but it will be just under a month before results for all 196 contests are certified and then made official.
We'll have to go through that 30-day certification period, make sure that no one has double voted, make sure that all the accounting that needs to occur, that all the 235 sites across the 4-day period occurs as well.
Challengers can request a recount of ballots starting on December 3rd for 5 days that follow. We also want to catch you up on some of the local measures on the ballot. We're going to start with Measure A, an increase in property taxes to help address the need for affordable housing. This would need a 2/3 majority to pass. So far, it's not there, with only 57% supporting the measure. To Measure E now, a yes on this measure would remove the 30-foot height limit in the Midway District. It's ahead easily with 57% in favor. The measure aimed at redeveloping and revitalizing the neighborhood had support from both the Republican and Democratic parties. Now to Measure B, the charter amendment establishing an independent commission on police practices. The San Diego City Council voted unanimously to put this on the ballot, which needs a simple majority to pass. It has overwhelming support from nearly 75% of the ballots counted so far. Federal officials in San Diego say it was a very quiet election day for them. The Department of Justice monitors elections to make sure there's no voter fraud or cyber hacking by foreign powers. Assistant U.S. Attorney Christopher Tenorio serves as the Department of Justice District Election Officer. He says federal officials were also looking out for voter intimidation.
We didn't receive any reports of voter intimidation at the polls. We were prepared to respond if necessary. Those reports did not come in.
Tenorio says they did get calls regarding mail-in ballots, but he says overall things were very quiet. It is the most expensive state ballot measure campaign in U.S. history, and now Proposition 22 is a go. The major win for gig economy companies means they can sidestep state law and continue to classify their workers as independent contractors and not employees. Employee status would have meant workers could get sick days and health care. Lyft and Uber threatened to leave California if Prop 22 failed. And here's a look at a few other state propositions. 2 approved, Prop 17, which would give people on parole the right to vote, and Prop 24 to expand consumer privacy. Others heading for defeat, Prop 16, asking to reinstate affirmative action. Prop 22, which would have increased penalties for probation violators, and Prop 21 to let cities expand rent control. And now it is official. The United States is no longer a part of the Paris Climate Accord. It is the first country to leave the agreement between 189 countries. It was drafted in 2015 as an effort to protect the planet from greenhouse gas emissions. All other major superpowers and top greenhouse gas emitters are still part of the agreement. The United States announced a year ago plans to leave the agreement, which takes a year to go into effect.
Our warm weather continues into Thursday, and Thursday should be the warmest day of the week with temperatures rivaling records. Then after that, we'll start to see some cooling arriving Friday. Cooler and gusty winds for the weekend, and there will be a little bit of wet weather sprinkled about too. Now we continue to monitor the storms parading out across the North Pacific. So far we've seen the storms move through the northwest. They've been rather weak, but this next one is a strong one, and this will bring our change in the weather for the weekend. For tonight, well, it's more of the same. Low clouds near the coast, temperatures cooling near 48 in Oceanside, San Diego 60, Ramona 53, and El Cajon around 59. Now for tomorrow, warmest day of the week here, temperatures well above average, records will be challenged, and of course we'll have the dry conditions too. Taking a look at the temperatures, Borrego Springs 95, Campos 87. Look at the heat here, Ramona and Escondido, El Cajon way up here in the 90s, so we'll be near record territory here. We're warm in San Diego and in Oceanside, well above average. And then the front comes through on Friday, and that will bring the gusty winds and the cooler air. And it looks like over the weekend with the trough moving through, we'll see some strong winds, and there'll be some episodes of showers. And those winds will be quite strong here, gusting 40, 50 miles an hour, maybe even higher. So there'll be some areas of blowing dust out towards the high deserts. Now, as we take a look at our temperatures, wow, they dropped dramatically. Low 60s over the weekend. Some strong gusty winds, some showers in the area. Look at these temperatures in the inland section, upper 50s, lower 60s. Those showers around. Mountain areas getting pretty brisk too. Whoa, strong winds. Temperatures drop into the 30s. And even the deserts, a significant change coming. Dropping from the mid-90s to the mid-60s, and maybe even a shower on Sunday. And for KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Mark Mancuso.
Now for a recap of today's top stories. In the presidential race, all eyes are now on a handful of states that are still counting votes. Here is a live look at the Electoral College map. Right now, Joe Biden has a projected 264 electoral votes compared to President Trump's 214. And today, the Associated Press declared the battleground states of Michigan and Wisconsin for Biden, dramatically narrowing the president's pathway to re-election. We haven't heard from President Trump since last night, but he has been tweeting, and his campaign has been filing lawsuits in a number of battleground states. We still might not know the outcome of this election for a couple of days, maybe even longer. And locally, Assemblymember Todd Gloria appears to be heading for victory today in the race to be San Diego's next mayor against City Council President Pro Tem Barbara Bree. As of early this morning, Gloria had 56.3% of the vote, while Bree had 43.7%. If elected, Gloria would be the first openly gay person elected to the position. It could be days or weeks before final numbers are determined. And in the District 3 Supervisor's race, challenger Tara Lawson-Remer, a Democrat who served as a senior advisor in the Obama administration, is ahead in the race against Republican incumbent Kristen Gaspar. Although supervisor seats are technically nonpartisan, Republicans have long held a majority on the board. If Lawson-Remer holds on to her lead, it would give Democrats an advantage on the board after decades of Republican control. Here is a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. How is the election playing out in North County? On Morning Edition, a closer look at the local decisions made by voters in places like Oceanside and Vista. And then on Midday Edition, an update on the presidential race as Joe Biden, as the few remaining states finish counting their votes. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.